Our topic for tonight is the true history of Chanukah. I don't want to elongate this whole story, but I want to tell everyone over here that you guys don't know the story of Chanukah. And the reason why you guys don't know the story of Chanukah is because the rabbis on purpose, they deleted, this censored is a better word, almost 99.99999% of the story. Not because they thought that the story of Chanukah is not important, it's an amazing story. We know more about Purim, which happened close to 283 years before, than we do about Chanukah. We know more about Avraham Avinu than we know about Chanukah, which happened 2,000 years before. We know more about the Jews in the desert than we know about Chanukah. What do you know about Chanukah, Tzadikim? There was a guy called Matthias, and he had 5 sons: Yehuda, Shimon, Elazar, Yochanan, and my favorite, Yonatan. He had 5 sons, and they decided to create a small little army, and depending on the midrash that you read, some say it was only them, some say it was a small army, some say it was 5. Doesn't matter, because the Greeks had hundreds of thousands. They had elephants. That's the equivalent of tanks of our days. They had the most sophisticated warfare. What did the Maccabim have? A couple of fat yeshiva guys running around with their tefillin and their shields and swords, screaming, "Mi kamocha be'elim Adonai, Maccabi, Mila Hashem Elai." Come the Chachamim and say, delete. They had the whole story on their computer, and they pressed delete. Why did they press delete? I'm going to tell you guys a secret. The story of Chanukah, Rabbi Avraham, gangster, the story of Chanukah was not a victory. It's a story of survival. Why wasn't it a victory? The Chachamim do not hide it from us. They write it in Masechet Shabbat. These Kohanim, who are these Kohanim? The sons of Mattatyahu decided that they were worthy to be kings. Wow. Why did they decide that they were worthy to be kings? Who was technically speaking, the first king of Israel? Yehuda. Technically speaking, it's in the Torah, Bishurun Melech, Moshe Rabbeinu. Technically, Moshe is the first king. What tribe did Moshe come from? Levi. What tribe were the Hashmonaim from? Levi. They learned the Torah, they changed the Torah to fit their own ambitions. The Gemara says that Kohanim have an issue. What's their issue? Their zealousness. They're very zariz. Causes them to be very biased. Narrow-minded. The Gemara says that when the Kohanim would work in the Beit HaMikdash, it was cold floors, a stone floor, right? And it's in the winter over there, it's freezing. And they would walk without shoes. No socks. No socks. So one rabbi says that God made a miracle, that the floors would heat up. One rabbi says they didn't need to be heated up. Why? The heat inside the Kohanim's body when they used to work, running back and forth, used to naturally heat their bodies. Very hot-blooded. And the 5 sons of Mattatyahu were no different. And the story of Chanukah is the story of the breaking of the vessels. The Leviim took the job that didn't belong to them. It did not belong to them. A Levi comes in the sphere of Gvura, his left column. A king comes from the Malchut, the middle column. A Kohen comes from the right column. Chesed. Chesed can never be the middle column. Gvura can never be the middle column. The Pirkei Avot which is the greatest psychological book that was ever written, tells us an amazing insight into the human psyche. You want to be successful in life? 3 words. Da'et mekomcha. Know your place in life. If you're meant to be a lawyer, don't try to be a doctor. If you're meant to be a barber, don't try to be a rabbi. If you're meant to be a rabbi, don't make yourself into nothing. Da'et mekomcha. Know your place. These Chashmonaim did not know their place. So what happens to their story? Delete. Their story is the Shbirat HaKelim, the breaking of the vessels. The Chashmonaim tried to no avail to increase the glory of Hashem, and they failed miserably because they took the milucha that didn't belong to them.
They don't exist.
Why did that happen? Not only don't they exist, anybody who says that he's a Hashmona'i, he's an Eved. He's a slave. He's a natural slave. The Hashmona'i messed up so bad. Why did it happen? The Ramami Pano says Yehuda HaMaccabi was the reincarnation of Yehuda ben Yaakov Avinu. And Matityahu was the reincarnation of Chizkiyahu HaMelech. So their previous reincarnations caused them to want to take the Melucha. But hello, in this reincarnation, what are you? You're a Kohen. You're a Levi. This doesn't belong to you. The story of Chanukah, I'm about to tell you guys something amazing. Doesn't happen with the Maccabim. The Maccabim are the last part of the story. The story of Chanukah really starts almost 80 years before that. There was a man, Yimach Shemo v'Zichro, Alexander Mokdon. The greatest conqueror of human history. Conquered the Persians, conquered everyone. When he died, and some people said he died from an STD because he wasn't straight. Yeah, he was experimenting. Some people said he died because his generals killed him. They poisoned him to death. How old was he?
30-something, no?
33 years old. Could you imagine what accomplishments he did? Every country that he conquered, he named one city Alexandria. Till today, people call their children in Judaism Alexander. Why?
Because of him.
Because of him. He comes to conquer Jerusalem, as you guys know. He sees Shimon HaTzadik. You prayed over there. That's where you saw the ayat.
No,
I wasn't there. So he sees Shimon HaTzadik. He bows to him. If the Torah says the story happened, it happened. The Goyim will never admit it. He says, I see this guy in my dreams before every war saying I'm going to succeed. I'm not going to conquer. Jews could stay Jews. Shimon HaTzadik said, because you did that, every Kohen born this year is going to be named Alexander. But they had to pay taxes. Taxes. Where did the taxes come from? Machatzit HaShekel. The shekel that the Jews get every year. Shimon HaTzadik was the last man to have Ruach HaKodesh. True Ruach HaKodesh. Nobody has had Ruach HaKodesh since he passed away. What people had since Shimon HaTzadik passed away it's called Bnei Nevi'im. It's called Ben Ruach HaKodesh. It's divine inspiration. It happens once in a while. But full Ruach HaKodesh, Shimon HaTzadik was the last one. Shimon HaTzadik is the first person who starts off our Pirkei Avot. He's on the ladder of Jewish history. He is the one. He had 2 sons when he passed away. Their names were, and this is where it all starts, Shimi and Chonyo. 2 sons. Chonyo, the younger son, was the father's favorite. He was in line to be the next Kohen Gadol. The father said when he passed away, Chonyo will be the Kohen Gadol. Shimi was the older brother. Why was Chonyo chosen to be the Kohen Gadol by his father? He knew the job. He knew it well. He knew how to work in the Beit HaMikdash. So the father gave the younger son precedence over the older son. It all goes back to Kibud Avayim, guys. But when Shimon HaTzadik passed away, the younger son, Chonyo, said, how could I embarrass my older brother like this? So what did he do? He gave his older brother the rights to be Kohen Gadol. Now back then there's no king. Back then there's no president. There's nothing. Who's the de facto leader of the Jews?
Kohen Gadol.
The Kohen Gadol. Kohen Gadol rules everything. Kohen Gadol talks to the dignitaries, the ambassadors. The Kohen Gadol is the leader of the Jews. He's the king, but not in name. When Chonyo gave the leadership to Shimi, right away he regretted it. And he got jealous. And he started to think of ways to kill his brother. To get rid of his brother. Now Shimi was a very kind and naive person. What did Chonyo do? Before Yom Kippur, the Kohen Gadol would stay up all night learning the halachot. So Shimi asked Chonyo, his younger brother, says, listen, I'm Kohen Gadol, you know the job, teach me. So he told him the wrong information on purpose. On Yom Kippur, in the Beit HaMikdash, Shimi goes into the Kodesh HaKodashim with the wrong things. When the Kohanim in the Beit HaMikdash saw what Shimi was about to do, what did they do? They took their knives and they were about to slaughter him on Yom Kippur in the Beit HaMikdash. And Chonyo is sitting over there. And he said, in his mind, kill him. He wanted to be Kohen Gadol. And Shimi said, it's not my fault. My brother told me the wrong halachot. The Gemara says, Kohanim, sometimes when they act out of zealousness. They didn't know what they were doing. They were hot-blooded. They wanted to kill Shimi. How could you desecrate the Avodah in Yom Kippur? And Chonyo wanted him to die. They almost killed Shimi. And Chonyo, when he saw that his plans didn't work out, he moved to Egypt. And over there in Egypt, nobody knows this. He built another Beit HaMikdash. It was called Mikdash Chonyo. And so many Jews moved from Israel to Egypt. There was such a big shul they had. To hear Amen, they had to raise a flag. In Alexandria. They had to raise a flag just to say Amen. And they were religious Jews. They had their own Sanhedrin. They had their own rabbis, own halachot, everything, their own Beit HaMikdash. And the Beit HaMikdash in Egypt was more beautiful than the Beit HaMikdash in Jerusalem. And who was the Kohen Gadol there? Chonyo. It was called Mikdash Chonyo. And they were able to bring down the fire from heaven. Yeah, they were able to do that. Even though they were going against Hashem. Why? Why, Gabriel? Kavod. Who gets kavod? Who gets to be the Kohen Gadol? Shimi, when he saw that he lost the leadership of the Jews, he changed his name to Jason. He became a Tzduki. And from then on, all the Kohanim, they started to become Levi Zila. Because they saw they lost the popularity. See, guys, life, and when you become a leader, it's very dangerous. Rav Nachman of Breslov says the most destructive thing for a human being is to be popular. Popularity is the number one enemy to a tzaddik. Once a tzaddik becomes popular, he loses his righteousness. And Hellenism started to seep through, and who was the cause of that? The Kohanim. Right. They lost the popularity. Everyone was moving to Alexandria. And then Alexander the Great died. And his kingdom was split into 4. And the Egyptian Greeks was headed by a guy called Talmai. He comes to Jerusalem. He takes 25,000 Jews as slaves. He desecrates the Beit HaMikdash and he forces 70 elders, the 70 men of the Sanhedrin, to write the Torah in Greek. That day the Gemara says, Masechet Megillah, that the world turned black. First time the Torah was translated into another language. And he put 70 rabbis, Gavril, in 70 different rooms. And all of them changed the Torah the same exact way. Hashem made a miracle. For example, the Torah says that God said, let us make man. All of them made the same change. And they didn't know. They said, let me make man. Talmai's wife's name was Arnevet. Arnevet means a rabbit. Today we also have rabbits. There's some kind of movement called secular modern orthodoxy where Jewish women become rabbis. We call them rabbits. I say it started with Talmai's wife. Her name was Arnevet. She was a rabbit. Now, when the Torah says that the rabbit is not kosher, they were afraid to write that. So what do? They changed the name to the hopping animal. And all 70 of them, all 70 changed the same exact change. Instead of writing Bereshit bara Elokim, they wrote Elokim bara Bereshit. It was a great miracle. But that's when Hellenism started to seep down. Kohanim started to change their names. They weren't Yehoshua, they were Josh. Jake.
Jeffrey.
Jason, Jeffrey, Stephen. Yes, these were their names.
Great child.
All the three things that the Jews did in Egypt to keep their Judaism, they didn't change their names. They didn't change their clothes. And they didn't intermarry. In the time of the second Beit HaMikdash, all three of them they did. They changed their names, they changed their clothes, and they intermarried. Talmai HaMelech, the Egyptian Greek, the emperor, he opened up the first gymnasia. Sports club. NYCS, I have next to my kollel, the sports club. First sports club. And the Jewish people had to attend. And they would give themselves a surgery to reverse the effects of the Brit Milah. You know how painful that is? If a Brit Milah is painful, imagine how it feels to reverse a Brit Milah. They wanted to fit in. Just like today we have in public schools, our Jewish boys want to fit in with the Goyim, and they start acting like the Goyim. It's exactly the same. They dress like the Goyim. They get haircuts like the Goyim. Piercing tattoos. Lord Nir Lord Am Yisrael.
Yo.
These people, these celebrities, every day they start dating somebody, they get a new tattoo. Look how stupid they are. It's permanent. What are you doing? They get a tattoo. They break up. They get a tattoo on top of that tattoo. Whole body tattoos. You guys ever heard of singer Justin Bieber?
Justin who?
Bieber.
Who?
Bieber. You ever heard of him? He has tattooed on his hands Yud Kei Vav Kei. Did you know that?
A lot of these guys know.
Desecration of God's name.
You're gonna have. He's doing the second command, the third command.
He has tattooed on his name Yud Kei Vav Kei. Huh? He has both in Hebrew letters. Yeah, he has. I saw with my own eyes. Yeah. Could you imagine that kind of avera? And the Jews want to act like the Goyim. When Talmai came, it didn't start with Antiochus. It started with Talmai. When Talmai came to conquer Jerusalem, he didn't know how to get into Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim is a mountain terrain. Who opened the doors for him? The Jews. The secular Jews. They opened the doors for Talmai so he could conquer Jerusalem. They took everything out of the Beit HaMikdash. They took the golden Mizbeach. They took the golden Mizbach HaZahav. They took the menorah. They took everything. There was no menorah. When the Maccabim came into the Beit HaMikdash, they found no menorah. What did they light with? You know, your kid comes home from school, they have that plastic menorah. That was more expensive than what they lit with. You know what they lit with? They made a menorah out of wood.
Which is the lowest.
It's the lowest level of menorah. And they were so poor, the Jews, when they lit the menorah for the first time, when they upgraded to metal. And then to copper. And then to silver. It wasn't until 70 years after the Beit HaMikdash was taken back by the Maccabim that they upgraded to gold. The Yevanim made Jerusalem like an empty sea, no fish. Nothing was left. They put in Aristotle, they put in Plato, Pythagoras. By the Yevanim, the more clothes you have on, the less of a Greek you are. The less clothes, the more clothes you have on. Today's the same thing. It all started with Shimi and Chonyo. I'm going to tell you guys another secret. When Talmai came inside the Beit HaMikdash, the Kohen at that time was a good guy. His name was Elazar HaKohen. He told Elazar, let's go together to make a korban to my god, Zeus, the lightning god. And he said to him, what would you want to bring a korban? He said, a pig. In the Beit HaMikdash. Elazar said, we can't do it next to everybody. When you service God, it has to be alone. Let's go in together. And he hid inside of his hands, the Midrash says, a shchita knife. Old man, he was 90 years old. And when the Greek general came inside to make the korban, he took out his shchita knife and he sliced off the Greek emperor's hands. And the Greek emperor, Nicanor, his name was, general, he killed Elazar Kohen inside the Kodesh. Inside the Kodesh, he killed him, and his blood was running like Zachariah Kohen's. It was running out. And when Antiochus, who was the king of the Syrian Greeks, when he conquered Egypt, he was worse. Not only didn't he allow the Jews to be Jews, no Beit HaMikdash, he erected inside the Beit HaMikdash, he erected a statue of himself. Antiochus. His real name was Epiphanes. Antiochus Epiphanes. He was such a Rasha that he had a rule. All Jewish girls before they get married have to have their first night with the Greek general who's in charge of that area. And you think I'm joking? Open up Gemara Masechet Ketuvot Daf Gimel. You're going to see over there, there's halachot based on that. And some say, some Hasidic people, the reason why their wives shave their head comes from there. They made themselves look as ugly as possible. And there were two families of Kohanim. One was the house of Yochanan Kohen Gadol, and one was the house of Hashmonai. Hashmonai had a son named Elazar. Yochanan Kohen Gadol had a son named Matatiyahu, and his sister's name was Yehudit. Yehudit was engaged to Elazar. And they couldn't hide the marriage. They couldn't hide it. It was a big deal. It's the aristocrats of the Jews. And they decided, Yehudit decided that she's going to go become to this emperor, to this Greek guy. She went to the market. She dressed like a zona. She took wine and she started to pour it. The princess of the Jews. When her brothers heard about this, her nephews, Matatiyahu's children, they said to her, their aunt, what are you doing? She said, why do you care what I'm doing to myself? Tomorrow I'm going to be to a goy. Care about that! And the Kohanim are very fiery. They were religious. They were observant. They went inside with Yehudit into the tent of Nicanor. And that night Nicanor was very drunk because he was happy that Yehudit came inside to be with him. And just like in 108th Street, Yamach Shamam, those goyim, they all jumped on that Jewish boy, but back then it was different. All the 5 sons of Matatiyahu jumped on top of Nicanor, and they sliced his head off. And that's how the rebellion began. And Matatiyahu was the first one to die. Elazar, his son, was the second to die. He was stomped to death by an elephant. Elazar, stomped to death by an elephant. And the Chachamim say that the nes, the victory of the Maccabim over the Greeks was such a great miracle, it was worthy that we would have a holiday just like Pesach. It was these 8 days, they were worthy to have a holiday just like Pesach. Just like Sukkot. Sukkot is also 8 days. It was supposed to be one of the regalim. What happens instead? Yehuda Maccabi and his family, they take the melucha. They take the kingship. A Levi, a Kohen, decides to be a Malchut. Chesed decided to be Malchut. How? Chesed, you're on the right side of the spectrum. Malchut, you're in the middle. You can't take the melucha. You can't do that. Hashem took his revenge. One of the kings of the Hashmonaim mass converted many goyim. One of those goyim, his name was Hordus. The goyim called him Herod. He killed every last member of the house of the Hashmonaim. We're sitting over here and we're lighting candles for a victory. It's not a victory. It's a game of it was a story of survival. The reason is the greatest sadness in this whole story. And when you say Al Hanisim, you should really pay attention to this. There is no more Matatiyahu. That's what the story of Chanukah is telling us. Those zealots, those Kohanim, those people who stood up for the Jews, they died out. That's it, they're gone. Because of one mistake. For the best. They did it for the best. There was no one worthy. They made a mistake. The mistake started with two brothers, Shimi and Chonyo. And it ended with Yehuda and his brothers. Yehuda, Yonatan, Shimon, Elazar, and Yochanan. Why? Game of power. The story of Chanukah is a game of Ga'ava. Who was going to be the leader, the de facto leader of the Jews? Who's going to get his name said out loud? Who's going to be the one to meet with the dignitaries and the ambassadors? We as Bukharian Jews, we could take a lot to learn from the story of Chanukah. And it's a big sign for us, our community as a whole, that right before Chanukah, a day before Chanukah, one of our own boys, which his name was David, and we know David has a lot to do with Yehuda, which Yehuda HaMaccabi, that he was jumped by close to 30 goyim in the middle of what they call Little Bukhara. It's the middle of a Jewish area. He was jumped by 30 goyim. And this time, but we say in Chanukah that the small conquered the great. Over here, the great conquered the small. What lesson do we have to take from this? We're lighting the candles, but we're not getting the message. We eat the matzah, but we're not getting the message. We put on tefillin, but we don't get the message. This generation is all about what? How many followers I have on Instagram, how many likes I get, how many views I get, who's more popular. That's the opposite of Judaism. Dat mikomcha. 3 words. This is all of Judaism. Know your place. Shimi and Chonyo had that problem. Shimon HaTzadik chose Chonyo. He didn't choose Shimi. Chonyo thought he was being a good guy. He gave his brother the older. He gave him. Your father chose you for a reason. Look how far he went. He built a Beit HaMikdash in Egypt. Destruction of the Jewish people started. You know all those Jews that lived in Alexandria? The Gemara says it's very sad. Not one of them was left. When Antiochus conquered them, he killed everyone. Dat mikomcha, know your place. What is your mission in life? I'm going to tell you guys something. Tonight is the 4th night of Chanukah. Tomorrow is the 5th night. Shabbat is going to be what? The 6th. The 5th night of Chanukah, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, could never fall out on Shabbat or Rosh Chodesh. Am I right or wrong? Am I right or wrong? The 5th night, not the 6th, the 5th. The 5th night of Chanukah represents the darkest night of Chanukah. The Lubavitcher Rebbe said, in the 5th night of Chanukah, the things that you could do are unbelievable. I want to tell you guys what to pray for. You have to pray for one thing. Tomorrow night. Only one thing. Hashem, what is my mission in life? What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to do that? That's what you're supposed to pray for by the candles. Not for money, not for riches. That was already decided on Rosh Hashanah. You're not going to change that. You have to only pray for one thing. What is my mission in life? Don't become Shimi and Chonyo. There's nothing left of them, you know that. They're gone. The Chachamim press delete. The Gemara says be careful from the rabbis. When they press delete, what happens to them? They get deleted, those people. Know your place. Da'at mekumcha. That's the true story of Chanukah. Baruch Adonai le'olam. Amen ve'amen. Rabbi Hana ben Shai